Hi, Critical Analysis. This is your video for your Chapter 8 assignment. So this correlates with Week 6. This was covering Chapter 7 and Chapter 8. This is just going to focus on the assignments that you were turning in related to Chapter 8. I will make a comment that, remember, in your vocabulary video for Chapter 8, we did go over the vocabulary. However, if you've already looked at your syllabus and already looked maybe at the folders, you are not actually turning in your Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz until next week. So because we covered 2 chapters this week, Chapter 8 kind of continues on into Week 7, and that is when you're going to turn in your Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz. So that is why you're not going to see that as part of your assignments for Chapter 8. I will talk about that next week. Even though you filled out the vocabulary guide this week, you're going to hang on to that for next week. All right, so Chapter 8, we're just going to focus down here. So your text and skill sheet, you'll download it. Here it is. All right, so Part 1, Roman numeral 1. These are basically just questions that deal with the topics in Chapter 8. So if you haven't already watched the Chapter 8 lecture video, you might want to go back into that because I do talk about all of these different concepts. You can also pull up the Chapter 8 PowerPoint, Chapter 8 text, anything like that that's going to help you answer these questions. And so I encourage you to put them in your own words, because that's when it's going to have the most meaning to you, is whenever you can put them in your own words, how you would state it. So all of these are related to Chapter 8 concepts. So just tell me what point of view is. Tell me about bias, fact versus opinion, purpose, and tone. All of these just Chapter 8 concepts, kind of definitions, if you will. All right, from there, this is, if you already watched the vocabulary video, I talked about how your selections are going to overlap for Chapter 8, both in vocabulary and on the text and skill sheet. So you're going to read, if you haven't already, the how to decide, the decision making. So I'll go ahead and get into our textbook here real quick. You are going to go down to, here we go. There we go. Selection number 1, which was all about decision making. Remember, this was a little bit of a lengthy section. But you are going to specifically go to it. There is going to point you to what sections. So you can see, look at the how to decide section. So you'll kind of scroll then. There it is right there. Going to answer the questions related to that. What is your point of view regarding that? Do the authors include facts and opinions? Provide an example of each. The answer is yes. They do include both facts and opinions. So basically, you're going to pull out an example of a fact, pull out an example of an opinion from this selection. How would you describe the tone of the whole selection, the whole passage? What is the purpose of this reading selection? What is the author's point of view on decision making? And so this right here is the only part that you have to really hone in on, the how to decide section. The rest of these you can pull from anywhere in the selection. So if you see what I'm saying here, the how to decide section is right here. But you can certainly, for the other questions, talk about anything above it or anything beyond it as well. Okay, so all of that section right there, part Roman numeral 2a, all comes from that first reading selection. All right, Roman numeral 2b comes from your second reading selection. So that's where you'll go to section 2. This was the one on climate change. So again, you may have already read this as we talked about the vocabulary from Chapter 8, since a lot of your words are derived from this selection. If not, you're going to want to go back and read it. So what you are doing is you are putting into practice one of the chapter's patterns of organization, cause and effect. So you're going to look through, and there are literally tons of these. So there's not just 5 that you are looking for, 5 causes, 5 effects. There are quite a bit. So some of you may have different ones on your paper than others, but what you're going to do is list the causes and effects of climate change that are discussed in the selection. Just put the page number so that it's a quick reference for me. I know it says paragraph number and line number, but page number, I can kind of get the gist from that. But what's the cause? What's the effect? So 5 of them. You're practicing one of our patterns here, cause, effect. You are getting all the cause and effects from this second reading selection. So you are practicing one of our concepts of patterns of organization that we talked about before with cause and effect. All right. From there, you are going to do part C, which asks you to look at exercise 8.5 5. So if you go into your table of contents here, it's on page 426. I'm just going to scroll up here. Let's say it's collapsed. So I'm going to bring it down, and we're looking specifically at passage 2. And it's going to be about Winston Churchill. So you're going to read passage 2 about Winston Churchill, and then you're just going to answer those 5 questions. And it's just, is this a fact or an opinion? So that's all you have to do for that section. And they have the restatement of the facts, opinions right here. So tell me, is it a fact? Is it an opinion? That's all you have to write down, F or O, fact or opinion. So you're practicing the concept of fact and opinion there. So that is your Chapter 8 text and skill sheet. As always, when you're done, you want to save it. You want to put it in the Dropbox. All right, the other assignment that is connected to Chapter 8 this week is your fact opinion mastery skill. So you're going to want to go in there, and then you have your 2 post tests. Remember, you can take post test 2 first if you want, and then post test 1. It does not matter. If you do well on whatever one you do first, you don't have to do the other one. Or you can try to get a higher score. Remember, it's only going to take your higher score. So Blackboard will only take the highest of the 2 scores to go into your overall average. Now remember, even though like week by week I tell you what skills to work on, these you still have to the end of week 8 to finish all your skills, but I just highly recommend you not waiting that long because it's going to be a little overwhelming. So you're going to want to make sure that you go in, take your fact and opinion, and you can see some of these are just kind of questions going on about different facts and opinions. You have to choose a statement that's a fact, look at different passages, and then passage 2, or excuse me, post test 2, is going to look pretty similar. You got passages, you got to figure out what's fact opinion within the different contexts. All right, so that is your assignment video for, there we go, Chapter 8. Please make sure that you complete your Chapter 8 text and skill sheet and your mastery skill associated with this chapter this week, your fact and opinion. Chapter 8 vocabulary quiz will be included on next week's assignment. All right, bye.